We are people of compassion and we are people of law. But there is nothing compassionate about the failure to enforce immigration laws.
That's the Attorney General Jeff Sessions defending President Trump's decision to rescind an Obama-era program allowing undocumented immigrants who came to the United States as children to stay in this country. Meantime, a New York Times article says this is evidence that moderates are losing influence in the White House, saying, quote, moderates, including Mr. Kushner and the National Economic Council Chairman Gary D. Cohn, had urged the president to reach beyond his hard-right populist base to embrace a program that enjoys significant public support, even among Republicans. But the moderates in Mr. Trump's midst, Mr. Cohn in particular, are somewhat less influential these days after several expressed their disgust at the president's response to the racial riots in Charlottesville, Virginia last month. Leslie Marshall is a radio talk show host. Steve Cortez is a former Trump Hispanic Advisory Council member, both of them Fox News contributors. I want to ask you, Steve, first about the thrust of that New York Times piece. Is it considered a moderate position to allow the Dreamers to stay?
Yeah, no, you know, the New York Times, as usual, completely whiffs here. If moderates are losing influence so much, why was Steve Bannon just shown the door to the West Wing, the exit door from the West Wing? So, I think that's nonsense. And I say that, by the way, as somebody who wants to see DACA made law. And I say that as someone who loves immigrants, and I have great empathy for the people who were brought here as children and had no say in breaking our immigration laws. But we do have laws, and they are not made by somebody like King Obama waving his scepter, deciding on his own. So I hope that the Congress, the do-nothing Congress now, gets to work and does its job and passes comprehensive immigration reform that will include, I hope, protection for the Dreamers.
That point was made time and again, Leslie, by the Attorney General, who said, look, we feel sorry for these people. They had no role in this. They were brought here as children, but we are a nation of laws. And the best way to maintain a functioning democracy is to remain a nation of laws.
You can have a nation of laws, John, but these are... And I have two kids, and they do what they're told. They go where I tell them because they trust me as their parent. Even if I were doing something illegal, they're not aware of that. We even see in the criminal justice system here in the United States when Americans have great influence over their children, and the court sees that the children aren't even charged because they know many of these children don't know the difference between right and wrong. Yes, we are a nation of laws, but we are, as the Attorney General said, also a compassionate people. And aren't we supposed to be people and humans first? We're a nation of laws, but these children did not break the laws at the time the parents did. And quite frankly, this is not at the top of America's desires for what needs to be fixed right now, and where money and concentration in Congress needs to be spending our tax dollars.
But Leslie, on that score, nobody is saying that Congress can't craft a law that allows these people to stay. It simply... as Steve was suggesting, President Obama simply said, they can stay, and Congress never had a word in it. It was ruled by fiat, and that's what the Attorney General seems to think needs to be corrected here.
But what I think the president did at the time, former President Obama, was he did something so that these children weren't in the position that they soon might be in once again. It's almost like, look, kids, you can't do this. Daddy's going to have to step in and take care of things because you can't do your job. And we have seen that with Congress time and time again. Immigration is an area where
Leslie,
Democrats and Republicans have shared feelings on this, especially DACA. This is something they should be able to get done, and I don't think they will be able to do it because of the fragmentation in both parties and the constant infighting within both the House and the Senate.
Steve, we're looking at some more aerials from Denver. Excuse me just a second, Steve. We're looking at some more aerials from Denver. Large Hispanic population in that city, and thousands of students have apparently walked out of class to protest the president and the Attorney General's announcement today. Go ahead, Steve.
What you just said, Leslie, though, flies in the face of the principles of democracy to say that daddy, referring to President Obama, has to step in and do something. Well, we don't have a daddy. We have a president. We have a constitution. We have separation of powers. President Obama was allegedly a constitutional law professor, but somehow he seems to have about a third-grade grasp of the concept of separation of powers. He does not get to make law on his own, or he does not get to just partially enforce laws that are passed by Congress. Now, I agree with you that I think we want to reach the same place. And I disagree with some of my Trump allies here. I want the Dreamers protected because it wasn't their fault that they broke our laws. They're very different, in my view, from adults who willfully break our immigration laws. But we must do it the right way through the Congress. And I think the president showed great compassion. There was much pressure on him to do this immediately, to end it today. Instead, he's given a lengthy window whereby we can do this the right way.
Well, what'll be curious to see is, with everything that's on the plate of the Congress right now, whether they can actually pick up this ball and run with it. Mixing my metaphors there, I guess. Steve Cortez, Leslie Marshall, thank you both. Good discussion.